For 20 years, humanity sat at their table. 20 years, we listened to their condescending praise and accepted their hollow promises. We shared our expertise, defended their trade routes, and asked only for a single thing in return: respect. They called it a negotiation. We called it an insult. But in the glittering halls of the galaxy's most powerful rulers, a line is about to be crossed. What secret document will a human ambassador uncover that will change the fate of the galaxy forever? When humanity finally walks away, what vital resource do they take with them that will bring a 10,000-year-old empire to its knees? And what happens when the Council sends its grand fleet to teach the upstarts a lesson, only to find a force waiting for them that was never supposed to exist? Humans withdraw from peace talks. The Galactic Council realizes their mistake. Before we begin our story, know that your subscription is our most valuable asset. Take a moment to support the channel and like this video. It ensures our signals reach the farthest stars. Alright, let's begin the story. Then, the grand meeting room on the Citadel, the Concord's capital station, fell silent as Ambassador Elias Thorne stood up. The shimmering blue aliens and the tall, insect-like beings paused their quiet whispers. Even the floating gas creatures in the corners stopped their gentle, colorful pulsations. Something in the human's face made them all pay attention. Thorne was tired. A deep, soul-crushing weariness was etched into the lines around his eyes. He was 58 years old. He had spent 20 of those years at this very table, trying to get humanity accepted as equals in the galaxy. Today was the last straw. "I have heard enough," Thorne said, his voice quiet but carrying a weight that cut through the chamber's low hum. His gray hair and lined face were a testament to decades of patient, thankless diplomacy. High Mediator Valerius, a tall being from the Xylosian Combine with purple scales and 4 elegant arms, let out a sound that might have been a laugh. "Ambassador Thorne, please sit down. We all get frustrated sometimes. It is the nature of complex negotiations." Thorne did not sit. Instead, he reached across the table and picked up a datapad that Valerius had carelessly left open. The screen glowed with secret plans. Detailed military projections for the hostile takeover of 3 human mining colonies in the Epsilon Eridani system. The document bore the Concord's official, encrypted seal. Thorne held it up. "This does not look like frustration to me, High Mediator. This looks like you plan to steal our worlds while pretending to be our friends." The other 6 senior council members looked at the High Mediator with a mixture of surprise and anger. Not because of the plan itself, but because he had been so clumsy as to let a human see it. Valerius's scales turned a darker purple, a clear sign of embarrassment in his species. That is simply a planning exercise," he said quickly. "A contingency simulation. We consider many possible futures." Anya Sharma, the younger, sharper sub-ambassador, stood up next to Thorne. Her face was a mask of cold fury, but her voice remained chillingly professional. "Including futures where you violate the Treaty of First Contact and seize our planets? The same planets whose resources you taxed us for, right after we helped defend your trade routes from the Vkar Reavers last year." The large, gray alien to Valerius's left, a being named Cora with 6 powerful tentacles, waved one of them dismissively. "Your ships were barely useful in that conflict. A minor distraction at best. Without our guidance, your species would still be stuck on your single, polluted planet, flinging chemically propelled rockets at your own moon." Thorne pushed the datapad back across the table. It slid over the polished surface and stopped directly in front of Valerius. "We have been patient," Thorne said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, forcing the entire chamber to lean in. "We have been respectful. For 20 years, humanity has asked for equal membership in this Concord. For 20 years, you have found new reasons to delay, new cultural misunderstandings to invent, new standards we have failed to meet." He looked at each of the 7 senior representatives, one by one, holding their gaze. "Humanity will no longer wait for your approval." He straightened his back. "Effective. Immediately, Earth and all associated human colonies withdraw from all agreements, treaties, and negotiations with the Galactic Concord." The room erupted in noise. Some council members shouted questions. Others demanded to know by what authority a junior species could legally withdraw. The floating gas beings turned a bright, alarming red. Thorne simply raised his hand. The 5 other human representatives in his delegation stood up in perfect unison. They began packing their materials, calmly, methodically, as if they had practiced this exact moment 100 times. "You need us," cried the insect-like representative from the Arcturon Federation, his voice clicking and whirring through his translator. "Your colonies depend on our protection. The galaxy is a dangerous place for a young, foolish species like yours." Ambassador Thorne allowed himself a small, cold smile. "We have learned much from our time with the Concord," he said. "Perhaps more than you realize." Anya Sharma handed Thorne a small, cylindrical device. He pressed a single button on its surface. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber went dark. When they flickered back on seconds later, all data pertaining to Earth, its colonies, its ships, and its territories had been completely and irrevocably wiped from the Concord's central databases. "We will protect what is ours," Thorne said into the stunned silence. "If the Concord wishes to establish new relations with the Sovereign Human Alliance in the future, as equals, you may contact us. Until then," he paused, letting the weight of his final words settle. "All diplomatic channels are closed." The human delegation turned and walked out of the room in perfect, disciplined order. As the massive chamber doors hissed shut behind them, the council members stared at each other in confusion. Some seemed worried, but most were simply annoyed. Arrogant. "They will be back," Quora said confidently, her tentacles coiling in amusement. "They will come crawling back the moment they realize how foolish this little tantrum is." Only Trell, the youngest council member, looked truly concerned. "I am not so sure," he said quietly to himself. "I think we may have just made a terrible, terrible mistake." Outside the council chamber, Elias Thorne took a deep breath of the recycled air. After 20 years of fake smiles and carefully chosen words, it felt good to finally speak the truth. "Send the signal to Earth, Anya," he said. "It's time for the Sentinel Protocol." The underground command center in Geneva was packed with the most important people from Earth. Military leaders in crisp uniforms sat beside scientists in stained lab coats and corporate titans in sharp suits. Everyone was silent, waiting. Fleet Admiral Eva Rostova stood at the front of the room. Her uniform was perfect, her short gray hair was cut with military precision. On the large holographic screen behind her, a countdown timer showed 3 minutes remaining. "Ambassador Thorne and the delegation have just departed the Citadel," she announced, her voice calm and authoritative. "The Sentinel Protocol is now active." The room filled with tense whispers. Some people looked worried. Others looked grimly excited. Humanity had been preparing for this day for 10 years. A secret plan so vast in scope that only a handful of people in this room knew all its components. Now that it was here, even the bravest among them felt a knot of nervous energy in their stomachs. The door hissed open and Dr. Kenji Tanaka rushed in. He was the head scientist for Earth's clandestine technology program, a man whose mind worked on a quantum level. His white lab coat was covered in coffee stains, and his wild brown hair looked like it hadn't been brushed in days. "Sorry I'm late," he said, taking a seat next to General Frank Rodriguez. "We just finished the final stress tests on the new shield generators." The general, a large man with dark, watchful eyes that missed nothing, simply nodded. And Dr. Tanaka's tired face broke into a wide grin. "And they worked. Better than we hoped. The new resonant shields can absorb and redirect any energy weapon the Concord has ever shown us." The timer on the screen reached 0. A new image appeared. It was Ambassador Thorne, now on the bridge of his ship, the Envoy, speeding back toward human space. "The Council reacted exactly as we predicted." Thorne's voice filled the room. "They think this is a bluff. They think we'll come crawling back within weeks." Admiral Rostova stepped forward. "Then we proceed as planned. All fleets, all stations, all colonies begin Operation Silent Departure. Around the Earth and across the entire Sol system, in secret bases and hidden factories, things began to move. Quickly, ships that had been built in secret inside hollowed-out asteroids were now loaded with critical supplies. Scientists packed up terabytes of restricted research data. Military bases on Mars and the moons of Jupiter activated advanced defense systems that had been hidden from Concord observers for years, disguised as geological survey equipment. In her deep space laboratory in the Kuiper Belt, Dr. Lisa Bennett watched her team install new experimental engines on a fleet of transport ships. These engines were based on Concorde designs, but with radical human improvements that made them 30% faster and much, much harder to track. Will 24 hours be enough time to finish the retrofits on all the designated ships? Asked her assistant. Dr. Bennett didn't look away from the engine diagnostics. It has to be. The Concorde will notice something's wrong in about 36 hours, when our regularly scheduled supply ships fail to arrive at their trading posts. In orbit above Earth, Captain Peter Allen received new, highly encrypted orders on his patrol ship, the Guardian. He read them twice. Navigation. He ordered his crew, set a new course for the Epsilon mining colony. Maximum burn. His second-in-command, Officer Jane Butler, looked concerned. The Epsilon colony? Sir, that's far outside our designated patrol area. Not anymore, Captain Allen said, his voice hard. Our job just got bigger. We need to bring all human settlements under our direct protection. The Concorde is no longer a factor. In New York, the United Nations held an emergency session. The Secretary General explained the situation to the assembled world leaders. For too long, he said, his voice ringing with newfound defiance. The Galactic Concorde has treated us like children. They have taken our resources, used our people as cheap labor, and given us little in return. Today, we take back our independence. Some leaders looked afraid. What if they attack us? Asked one. General Rodriguez stood up. We've been preparing our defenses for years. The Concorde doesn't know what we're truly capable of, because we have never shown them our true strength. In space stations and colonies throughout the solar system, humans received new instructions. Ships changed course. Hidden weapons came online. Coded messages spread from Earth to the farthest human settlements. Stand ready. Protect what is ours. Help is coming. Back in Geneva, Admiral Rostova looked at the vast star map, now showing thousands of blue icons representing human assets moving in a coordinated, galaxy-wide ballet. Phase 1 is underway, she said to her team. We have 6 months before the Concorde realizes what they've truly lost. Dr. Tanaka looked up from his computer, a predatory gleam in his eye. What about the isotope? 7 shipments, Admiral. The Concorde's FTL drives depend on them. Admiral Rostova's face was serious. Unforgiving. That's the point, Doctor. That's the entire point. On the Citadel, the Grand Concorde chamber looked larger than usual, emptier. It had been 6 weeks. This is a waste of time, grumbled Quora, her gray tentacles moving with irritation. The humans will return soon enough. Why call another emergency meeting? Trell, the young, blue-skinned council member, looked worried. It has been 6 weeks. Not a single human ship has been seen at any trading post. Not one. All their communication channels remain closed. The large doors opened and High Mediator Valerius entered, his purple scales shimmering under the bright lights. Let us begin. The humans have completely withdrawn from Concorde space. They are acting like children, clicked Mokther of the Vexery Hive. We should teach them a lesson. The Vkar Reavers have already hit 3 of our outposts in the sector previously patrolled by the humans, Trell pointed out. Perhaps we should be focusing on our own defense. This is the humans' fault. Quora insisted. They had contracts. They must honor them. My people need the metals from their asteroid belt. Valerius raised 2 of his 4 hands for silence. I propose we freeze all human assets in Concorde banks. We will also restrict their access to all public jump gates. When they cannot trade or travel, they will quickly understand their mistake. The vote was quick. 6 in favor. Only Trell hesitated. It passed. It is decided, Valerius announced. The humans will learn that they cannot survive without the Concorde's protection and guidance. 2 weeks became 4, then 6, then 3 months. The Council expected to hear from Earth any day. A desperate plea, a request to renegotiate. But no messages came. Instead, the problem started. Small at first. Luxury foods from Earth vanished from the markets. Annoying, but trivial. 3 entertainment companies canceled new shows because their brilliant human writers had returned to Earth. A cultural loss, but not a crisis. Then the bigger problems began. General Dexville, commander of the Concorde Defense Fleet, stood in his command center, staring at a map that was bleeding red alerts. Report, he growled. 3 more mining stations have been attacked by Vkar Reavers, sir, his aide reported. All in the same sector. Casualties, 42 dead, 17 missing. All resource containers stolen. Where are our defense ships? Dexville roared. We sent a response fleet, sir, but they arrived too late. Again, the Reavers are hitting targets in all the places where human patrol ships used to guard our interests. In another part of Concord space, Merchant Guild leader Riva stood in her empty warehouse. 6 months ago, it had been full of valuable human goods. Now, the shelves were bare. My customers are angry, she told her assistant. They want their Earth products. It's not just the luxury items, she said quietly, looking out at the idle trading port. The repair shops have no work because the best human engineers are gone. The entertainment centers are half empty because the human musicians left. At the Concord's primary shipyard, production was down 60%. The human workers, known for their incredible efficiency and problem-solving skills, were gone. The human scientists who led the research teams were gone. The Concord was beginning to realize that humans weren't just useful, they were essential. Then the real crisis hit. Trell burst into the grand chamber during a session, his blue face almost white. We have a new problem, he announced. The monthly shipment of isotope, 7 from the human mining colonies, did not arrive. Again, the room fell silent. Isotope, 7 was essential for faster-than-light engines. Without it, new ships could not be built. Older ships could not be repaired. The entire galactic economy, the entire military, would grind to a halt. How much reserve do we have? Valerius asked, his voice strained. At current usage rates. Trell consulted his datapad. Less than 6 months. The Concord sent an envoy. A diplomatic vessel, the Harmony, approached the edge of Earth's solar system. They were met by a single, small human patrol ship. This is Admiral Diane Powell of the Earth Defense Force. A human woman appeared on their screen, her face stern. State your business. The Concord envoy explained their desire to reopen talks. Transmit your message, Powell said. You are not cleared to enter Earth space. Any attempt to proceed will be considered a hostile action. The screen went dark. The message they had sent was an offer of full trading rights and a 10% reduction in tribute payments. In Geneva, humanity's leaders laughed when they read it. They're desperate, General Rodriguez noted. They specifically request immediate resumption of isotope, 7 shipments. The Concord's own scientists confirmed the worst. Isotope, 7 only existed in 3 other locations, all incredibly dangerous and expensive to mine. And the specialized equipment needed for the extraction? Only humans had designed it. Then came the final, terrifying revelation. Researchers, studying ancient star maps, found Earth marked with a special symbol. The 10,000-year-old text called it Home of the Guardians. The Concord made a desperate decision. Pride had to be set aside. They sent their grand fleet. 60 warships. The largest fleet assembled in 50 years. Not to attack, to intimidate. A show of force to bring the humans to the table. Commander Vex of the flagship Dominance watched the blue planet grow in his view screen. Send the message. Inform them the Concord fleet has arrived to escort their leaders to the Citadel 4. Proper negotiations. His communications officer looked confused. Sir, I'm detecting energy readings all around us, but I don't see any ships. Suddenly, space itself seemed to shimmer. Defense platforms appeared around every planet, every moon. Platforms hidden by technology the Concord had never seen before. Sir, shouted his sensor operator. Human ships are decloaking. Hundreds of them, and then thousands. All around the Concord fleet, human warships appeared from nowhere. Sleek, angular, and bristling with weapons that glowed with a terrifying energy. They had been there all along. Waiting. Watching. A human face appeared on the main screen. He had a scar across his cheek and tired, pitiless eyes. Council Vessel Dominance. This is Admiral Greg Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered Earth space with a military fleet. This is considered an aggressive action. We come under Concord authority too. You have 30 minutes to reverse course and leave our solar system. Martinez cut him off. This is not a negotiation. Vex stared at the sensor readings. The human ships were smaller, but there were so many more of them. And their weapon systems were locked onto every Concord vessel. They're bluffing, his second-in-command whispered. They don't have weapons that can harm our ships. As if in answer, a small human ship fired a single shot into an empty patch of space. The energy blast was more powerful than anything Vex had ever seen. It could have vaporized his flagship with one hit. The second-in-command fell silent. "Open a channel to all ships," Vex said quietly, his voice shaking. "Order them to turn around. We're leaving." As the Concorde fleet, the pride of the galaxy, turned and fled, Admiral Martinez sent one final message. "Next time, call ahead before visiting. It's only polite." In the silent Concorde chamber, after hearing the report, High Mediator Valerius finally understood. The humans had never been weak. They had been patient. They had been watching, learning, and building their strength in secret. "We have made a terrible mistake," Trell whispered. "For 20 years, we treated them like children." Another counselor looked at the ancient star map, at the symbol over Earth. "No," he said, his voice full of awe and terror. "For 20 years, we have been rudely dismissing the elders of the galaxy." The second-in-command fell silent. "Open a channel to all ships," Vex said quietly, his voice shaking. "Order them to turn around. We're leaving." As the Concorde fleet, the pride of the galaxy, turned and fled, Admiral Martinez sent one final message. "Next time, call ahead before visiting. It's only polite." In the silent Concorde chamber, after hearing the report, High Mediator Valerius finally understood. The humans had never been weak. They had been patient. They had been watching, learning, and building their strength in secret. "We have made a terrible mistake," Trell whispered. "For 20 years, we treated them like children." Another counselor looked at the ancient star map, at the symbol over Earth. "No," he said, his voice full of awe and terror. "For 20 years, we have been rudely dismissing the elders of the galaxy." The second-in-command fell silent. "Open a channel to all ships," Vex said quietly, his voice shaking. "Order them to turn around. We're leaving." As the Concorde fleet, the pride of the galaxy, turned and fled, Admiral Martinez sent one final message. "Next time, call ahead before visiting. It's only polite." In the silent Concorde chamber, after hearing the report, High Mediator Valerius finally understood. The humans had never been weak. They had been patient. They had been watching, learning, and building their strength in secret. "We have made a terrible mistake," Trell whispered. "For 20 years, we treated them like children." Another counselor looked at the ancient star map, at the symbol over Earth. "No," he said, his voice full of awe and terror. "For 20 years, we have been rudely dismissing the elders of the galaxy." The second-in-command fell silent. "Open a channel to all ships," Vex said quietly, his voice shaking. "Order them to turn around. We're leaving." As the Concorde fleet, the pride of the galaxy, turned and fled, Admiral Martinez sent one final message. "Next time, call ahead before visiting. It's only polite." In the silent Concorde chamber, after hearing the report, High Mediator Valerius finally understood. The humans had never been weak. They had been patient. They had been watching, learning, and building their strength in secret. "We have made a terrible mistake," Trell whispered. "For 20 years, we treated them like children." Another counselor looked at the ancient star map, at the symbol over Earth. "No," he said, his voice full of awe and terror. "For 20 years, we have been rudely dismissing the elders of the galaxy."